Uh, Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for all of you that are here and for you guys that are online. Thank you for coming tonight. I know here in South Florida it's raining a lot, so it's harder for us to get out, but we still have the internet, so we can watch it online. So before we begin tonight, let's do a opening prayer. I invite you all to think about Jesus, to visualize Jesus in front of you, ready to give you a hug. And now imagine that He's hugging us. And the way when we study from Him, when we hear from Him, we know that He loves us, that He accepts us the way that we are. And He also knows that we're in the progress of growing up ourselves. Let's feel that love, that care, and tune in into that vibration and accept ourselves the way that we are, so that we can start recognizing ourselves and find the direction we want to go, to grow, to walk the path with Jesus, our mentor and guide. And I'm thankful for this moment, for the opportunity to be here, for the blessings to be here tonight. And I invite all the good spirits, our mentors and guide, our guardian angels, for this meeting, and ask them permission to begin our work of tonight. So be it. Thank you, guys. So tonight, it's just going to be me here. I'm the one presenting. I'm Raphael Costa. And thank you so much for being here at Broward Spirited Society again. So tonight, I brought the first book from Allan Kardec, the Spirit's Book. And we're going to be talking about the beginning of the book, the first two parts in there, the Prolegomena and God. And you're going to see, if you haven't, I hope you read the Spirit's Book already, but if you haven't, you'll see what it is in the book in a little bit. So just a little background information in the Spirit's Book. The current version that we read, it's a second edition from 1860, which pretty much doubled from the first edition in 1857. I talked about that before in here. And the book, it's made of, like as it is in the second edition, it's made of 4 parts or 4 books. The first part being the first cause, then the spirit world, the moral laws, and then hopes and consolation. So the whole Spirit's Book, it entails those 4 parts or books. And how did the book came to be? So I'm sorry, I just went ahead in here. So it's made of those 4 books in there, and I'll be exploring the introduction of it. Actually, before the introduction, the Prolegomena, and then I'm going to go into one chapter of the first book, which is called, the title of it is God. So it's starting with Prolegomena, and in there we have the introduction part. Some editions of it, translations, they have the introduction first, after the Prolegomena, and some of them had the introduction after the Prolegomena. I went to see a little bit in the French version, and it's actually after the introduction, which makes sense based on the word Prolegomena. I know a few people already came here and talk about this word. It's actually Prolegomena. It's the plural for Prolegomenon, which means a critical or discursive introduction to the book. And I strongly feel that it's a crucial part of the Spirit's book. I know the first time I read it, I went straight to the questions. I kind of skipped this part, but later on, when I went to read it, I saw like how important it is. And I had no idea what Prolegomena means. I had to use the dictionary to find it out. And still, a few weeks later, I would forget about it. I saw talks actually here in our house that talks about it, and I still didn't remember right there. But I'm confident that now I'll learn this word of it. And the Prolegomena in the Spirit's book, it's actually a short few pages before the introduction where they really, Allan Kardec really talks and discuss a few ideas that helps us understand how the Spirit's book is. Like the meaning of some words, that it was created because of Spiritism and has some background in before we get to the Spirit's book per se. So it's really important to see that background, and it changed the way I saw the book, actually. And so what I did, I brought actually the Prolegomena, and I selected a few parts of it to present it to you. And in the Prolegomena, it talks about how the phenomena of that was happening at that time in France and actually around the world of the moving tables, and how the phenomena could be not explained at that time, but the philosophy of the scientists at that time, that every cause, it was caused by action of a free and intelligent will, and how he talks about cause and effect. If the effect is intelligent, so it must have a cause that is intelligent, and how it goes all around these on how Kardec studied the phenomena that was happening back there. And he tells us that that force that was happening with the moving tables or dancing tables, it declares itself actually as being the spirits of the people that no longer occupy a human body. So in a slang, I would say the dead people. So there were the dead, how the dead people were communicating with the people alive. And we go into for the rest of the book, we learn about incarnate and discarnate, the difference in there. So being in the flesh, incarnate, and discarnate, the ones that left, being the spirits, and that the mission of those spirits was to be a messenger and the instrument of God to educate and enlighten mankind and nurture us in a new era of renewal for humanity. So we saw that the effects was intelligent. They were giving us information. They actually named themselves as being the discarnates around us, and that they had a mission to help us progress in life and learn more about it. And it talks about the book as well, the intention of the book, that the book is a compilation of those teachings from the spirits that have been written under the dictation of superior spirits that helps validate what is in there. It's not inferior spirits. If you go further in the book around the question 100, and it talks about the classification of the spirits, the level that which one are, and you see the description in there. So it's not some spirit that it has a frivolous intention or just to play. They actually have that mission to teach us. And everything contained in the book, it's an expression of their thoughts, and it was obtained and has obtained their approval. So Allan Kardec itself, writing the Spirit's book, he's only being an instrument to deliver that knowledge, but not any kind of instrument, because to have a mind to compile and organize the way he did it, it's really impressive. And he quotes a few parts of the messages from the Spirit itself in there. And one part that I took out that it really catches me, it's when the Spirit tells us, we will lay down the foundations of the new structure to be built, which is destined to unite all humanity in a common sense of love and charity. Before its publication, we will review it with you to ensure the precision of every last detail. And if you follow the Spirit's review, which Allan Kardec started in 1858, the next year after the Spirit's book, that it's a monthly magazine. They have a bunch of discussions about it. You see that happening. You know, you see the daily, you see the stories that Allan Kardec tells us, the mediumship meetings that he performed, and some of the instructions that he received in there. And by the end of this introduction, this Prolegomena, it's signed by Saint John the Evangelist, Saint Augustine, Saint Vincent de Paul, Saint Louis, the Spirit of Truth, Socrates, Plato, Fenelon, Franklin, Swedenborg, and others. So in here, studying history and all those personality, we see that it's not anyone that actually worked in bringing the knowledge of the spirits to us. And I brought some of them in there that you can read, some of the what those personality was when incarnated. For example, Saint John the Evangelist was one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, and he's the writer of one of the Gospels, the Gospel of John, and actually 3 of the epistles, and the book of Revelation in the Bible. So it's not somebody that didn't have knowledge, so it's giving us the knowledge. You may ask that, so how do we verify the message that those spirits are giving us? Are they who they are that they're telling us? But it's not for us tonight, actually. This is for us to continue reading after here. But those are the questions that I'll bring to you home and people here to go find it. But Kardec will talk about it, how to verify the truth about those people, those discarnate, that gives us the message. And if you really believe and you know that those people are who they are, you know what kind of work they left for us already. And you see, you have a proof of the knowledge that they have, the experiences that they had, so they can tell us about those topics that we see presented in the Spirit's book. So that's the first part of it, and then there's what I talk about the introduction. There's a bunch of discussions about Spiritism itself before we actually get to the questions and answers from the spirits. And then on the first book, we have, it's called The First Cause, and the first chapter, it's about God. And in this part, the first cause part of book, there's 4 chapters. The first one being God, the one that we're going to see tonight. And then the next one, it's the general elements of the universe, then the creation, and the fourth chapter, the vital principle. But tonight we're going to just stay in that first chapter of the first part, being God. And I brought all the questions for us to analyze. We're not going to go over all of them, but we'll just give some general information on that and give you thoughts on when you're reading, so you can think about it and reflect yourself as well. So the first three questions that Allan Kardec asked the spirits was, what is God? What is, and the spirits answer that God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. So in here, we already start breaking down some dogmas that we have in our mind. Because I know for me, I was raised Catholic, and I imagine God being that white guy, tall guy with a beard, that knows everything and sees everything, and it's everywhere. So it's always like kind of keep telling of what I do. And in here, the Spirit tells us that that's not God that we have, like the person that we believe that God is. But that God is actually a supreme intelligence, that it was the first cause of everything. Like the God, it's the cause of all that is happening here. And if we start looking around on what we have around us, even the nature, car, ourselves, our body, they all seems to have a purpose. They're not something that it's randomly in there. You know, it's hard when you're studying the human body to just say this is random, like it was a chance they got it all together. Because there is a perfection in there. And the more that we study the body, we see how intelligent the body is. And if we use that knowledge, that discussion that Kardec gives us in the beginning, that every intelligent cause, intelligent effect must have an intelligent cause, we start to thinking about it and connecting with God, and we see that God is the cause of all of this, that it's happening, all the effects that we have, which is ourselves, nature, and everything around us. And then, because the answer, it talks about all those things, all things, we start to we may wonder about the infinity, because everything, so if we mathematically everything, it's everything, and we cannot count everything in reality. So it goes to the idea of infinity. So Kardec asked the next question, which is, what is to be understood by infinity in the correlation with all things? And the Spirit tells us, it's that which has neither a beginning nor an end. So we see that there's a vast things in there, and Kardec connect those two things, because if God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of everything, of infinity, and he connects those two things into the next question, which is the third question, which is, can it be said that God is infinite? And then the answer from the Spirit. This is an incomplete definition. One shortcoming of the language of humankind is that it lacks the ability to define that which transcends human intelligence. So in here, the Spirit is telling us in there that there's way more than we can comprehend, that we can really understand of God and the world around us. And I kind of hinted already about the scale of the spirits, the progress in each level that we go into in the path of progress. We we know that there is a path and there's a way that we learn more. And we're still, as right now, not able to understand it all in there. Okay? And on the second part from this book, you see how, you start seeing now how the questions in here, they build on top of each other. And how, that's why I said in the beginning, how Kardec, it has a really intelligence and a way to put things in order, and which was not an easy task, I would assume, the way it is in here. So we start seeing the depth of knowledge that Kardec had to actually put into this work from the spirits. Okay, and so he starts, Allan Kardec, asking questions in the next part about the proof of God's existence. And I'll go only on the question 4 in here, which he asked, where can the proof of God's existence be found? And then the spirits answer, in a premise that is applied in science, there is no effect without a cause. Investigate the cause of anything that is not the work of human beings, and reason shall provide the answer. So you see how it's progressing here, and following the logic, if you start seeing, in the way that they answered, I interpreted that if you want to understand the intelligence, the cause of something, and now we'll talk about the intelligence, things that exist already, if something that exists and it's not created by human beings, the intelligence of human beings, we would be able to get to God. But remember that before, we're still not in the level to understand the work of God itself, the intelligence of God itself. Because if we were there, we would be close to God. And there's a whole discussion about it in the introduction, which is fascinating, and in here, in this part as well. But going back to it, the cause, the intelligence cause of it, if we investigate enough and we have the intelligence and the time enough, we should get to that answer. And those are the things that, and the way in there, that will be our path to actually understand God. And if you look in science, a few years ago, when it was talking about cloning, for example, a whole discussion about ethics was, are we going to start playing God, creating new lives from using our own intelligence? So we can go in that route too, and gives us thoughts about in there. But like I said, this book, it's fascinating, and every time you read it, you're definitely going to have a different thought on it. And then for the remaining here on this, in this chapter, one thing that I'll bring it out is that Kardec tells us in this part here that we judge the power of an intelligent being by its work, just like in that first question. And then since no human beings could have created the natural environment, nature in there, the first cause must be an intelligence superior to ours. So we see the hierarchy in there, in here. But I'll let you guys go in there and see for yourself in the book. And the next part of the first chapter of the first book, it talks about the attributes of God. And here, I gotta use some of the questions in there. There's no way to go from there. So I'll just go over the first 3 questions. Question 10, is humanity capable of comprehending the essential nature of God? Kind of touched it a little bit before. And the answer for the spirits was no. Human beings lack the sense required to comprehend it. So we see here that we're still developing, we're still in that progress. And the Spirit tells us that. And next, will humans ever be able to understand the mystery of divinity? And the Spirit's answer, humans will see and understand God when their spirits are no longer obscured by matter, and when they have progress by striving for perfection. So we see here again the path that we gotta follow, and that for us to really start seeing a light in there, in the knowledge, it's not gonna be while we're incarnate. But the path that we go through in here, it's part of gaining that knowledge. And on the next question, Allan Kardec asks, if we cannot comprehend the essential nature of God, can we grasp an idea of some of God's perfections? And they answered, yes, some of them. Human beings understand them better as they transcend matter. They catch glimpses of them through thought. So in that path to start understanding, we are through life, when we go over the needs that we feel with matter, the attachment that we feel with matter, and here I'm already giving spoilers in there, is that throughout this journey, we're gonna start seeing some glimpse of it in our mind through our thoughts, the thoughts that we have. And it kind of gives us, like, at least for me, like if I'm always thinking and have some question in my mind, that actually helps me calm down a little bit. Like, you're not gonna be able to understand everything and still have a long way to go. And so it makes me try to enjoy the journey, and get back on some of the middle way, being here and thinking about this spirit life itself. So, and then the last part of this first chapter, it talks of Pantheism, which is a doctrine that still exists today, is that identifies God with the universe and nature itself. Like, God is the nature, God is the universe, in regards of all the manifestations that we have. So that was actually the thought that I have. So, and I still have it today, to be honest with you. Sometimes I go into that area. So God is everything, that we have. And that's what they're discussing back there in 1857, the whole idea in there. And when Kardec asked that to the spirits on question 15, what about the concept that all of nature, beings and worlds of the universe are part of the divinity, and they are in their entirely divinity itself? For example, the pantheistic doctrine. So like I said, that's the thought that I had as well, that God is everything. We are, because we are into that everything, we also are God itself, if you go that way. And the Spirit tells us in there that human beings actually cannot be God. Upon recognizing this, they want to at least be part of it. So it's kind of like if you go and start wondering about those questions, like, who am I, where I'm at, where I came from, like Kardec and the spirits are answering those questions to us on the path, or giving us an idea on where to go, or like in my case, like ease myself in that anxiety, let's put it this way. And so he tells us in here that God is the intelligence of everything, the first cause, but it's not actually everything. God is the cause, but it's not actually the creation itself, but God is behind like everything that is happening. And from the background of Catholic that I have, I learned that God is just and good. So keeping hold of those two characteristics, and I think we'll go to the chapter before, the attributions of God, which we cannot understand it with the minds that we have, the intelligence that we have. It is, I lost myself a little bit. That there is a reason, the intelligence calls behind it, so it makes sense. There is something behind of everything that is happening. And since God is just and good, God holds the balance between two of them, those two characteristics from it. And so this is the whole first chapter, just a little bit, just some glimpses into that first chapter on the first book of the Spirit's book. And to kind of like bring us to an end with all of this that I just started presenting to you, if you haven't actually read the Spirit's book, there is a part in there, a discussion from Kardec, from question 13 in the parts of attribution of God, that actually I want to bring it to us to think about it and just observe these words and try to feel it a little bit, the way Kardec thought and how that can make our lives better. So Allan Kardec talks about, after question 13, that God is infinite and eternal. If we assume a beginning to God's existence, we must mean that God either sprang from nothing or was created by some other being. Our realization is that it's not true, lead us to our idea of infinity and eternity. God is unchangeable. If this were otherwise, universal laws would have no stability. God is immaterial and by nature differs from everything we call matter. Without this quality, God would not be unchangeable and would be subject to the transformations of matter. God is unique. If there were more than one God, there would be neither unity of plan nor unity of power in the ordering of the universe. God is all-powerful. The possession of anything less than sovereign power would indicate the existence of something more powerful than or equally powerful to God. Without sovereign power, God could not have created all things, and those things not created by one God would be the work of another God. God is sovereignly just and good. The wisdom of the divine laws is revealed as clearly in the smallest things as in the greatest. This wisdom makes it impossible to doubt either God's justice and goodness. And when I read this again and again, I get to this feeling and of like peaceful and understanding that little glimpse that we talked about before in thoughts. I kind of like feel that glimpse in here that the spirits talk about in us. And it makes me think about it more and more. And it goes over all those 4 parts, even though this is on the third subchapter of chapter 1. It goes over this whole chapter and give me ideas and thoughts and maybe that little bit glimpse of God itself in there. And it makes me like want to keep studying and learning about it, progressing myself in the order that the Spirit gives us and here. And that's kind of what I want to bring it to you, to, I don't know, help you think about it a little bit more or see more beauty in this book and maybe provoke you on your ideas about God itself and life. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this few minutes in here. And if you want to continue studying it, you can go, first of all, Amazon today has everything, or a library or a bookstore, you can find it. But Amazon has the works from Kardec, or you can use the Kardecpedia. It's kardecpedia.net, or you can just Google Kardecpedia and you'll be able to find all the work. It's already in public domain, so you have the French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Some of the works are in there, and you can go in there and to study more about it yourself. And with that, I thank you all for being here and online and taking this couple minutes of your time to listen to me. And I think since it's just myself here, I transit to the next part, which is the reminders from our house. And it's going to be up in 1 second. Yes, it is in there. We have in here we have the BSS, Broward Spiritual Society, on YouTube. And remember to follow us in there, subscribe to our channel, and change the bell in there. Click on the bell to go to all notifications so you get all the new videos that we have from our house. And give it a like or you can give it a like. Also in the BSS Facebook page, we also we stream live the talks that we have in Portuguese and in English. And on Tuesdays, we have meditation on YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so Florida time. You just find the Broward Spiritual Society, which you already follow if you subscribed from the previous slide. We have the study on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. of the book In the Realms of Mediumship. I'm part of this study group. We're getting close to the end of this book, and people that are there, they're amazed by it. And we usually post the audiobook of the book itself on the Broward Spirit Society page, YouTube page, and we have the meetings online through Zoom. This week, the way that we sustain our doors open even throughout this pandemic is we offer food every Saturday at 6 p.m. And this week we have feijoada, which is like with rice, kale, and farofa. Feijoada, it's like a bean stew with a bunch of meat in there. I don't eat beans myself, but people that eat it, they love it. You can just get in contact with from that information that you see on the screen right now, and you can pick it up here on Saturday from 5:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for dessert, we have our brigadeirão. It's a chocolate flan, another Brazilian dish, and it's you can order it with the feijoada. And those are all our reminders for tonight. And before we end, I thank you guys again for being here. And let's do our closing prayer of tonight. Now I thank all the good spirits for being here with us, for God and Jesus, our angel guards, for believing in us and helping us throughout this journey here. We know that God is the supreme intelligence, and as Jesus said, love all of us the way that we are. We still ask for blessings, for courage, for healing, especially throughout these difficult times. We ask them to refresh our energies so that we can continue our path of growth, healing, bettering ourselves, so that we can make and bring a God's kingdom from heaven to earth every day and as much as we can. Following the new era that the superior spirits told us, they are their mission to bring it to earth. I thank God for the opportunity, for being part of it, and for asking for strength to continue in this mission and helping in this mission so that we can do the best that we can, always and forever. Thank you all for being in here. And with that, I ask permission to finish the work of tonight. So be it. Thank you.